Hello everybody. So in session 1 you were asked to create the opening of your speech in which you establish your ethos, your character, you introduce your topic but you don't go into it in depth. We're going to move on now to the second section of your speech, which is when we are going to go more logos. So we're actually going to get into the topic now. We're going to give more information and make sure that our audience are a little bit educated really. It's not just about making them like us and hitting them in the heart. We have to educate them a little bit about the topic. So exactly the same as in the last tutorial, I have written an example which obviously follows on from what I read to you in the last session, which I'd like to read to you. So this is section 2 of my speech. So if you remember, section 1 of my speech finished with the story of Alejandra. So I've started section 2 of my speech by linking and ensuring cohesion between the different parts. So it says, and what is more, Alejandra is just one of millions of children engaged in child labour across the world. UNICEF defined child labour as the exploitation of children through any form of work that deprives children of their childhood, interferes with their ability to attend regular school, and is mentally, physically, socially or morally harmful. Recent global estimates based on data of UNICEF, the ILO and the World Bank indicate that 168 million children aged 5 to 17 are engaged in child labour. At least 85 million children do very hazardous work. Mining is one of the most dangerous jobs across the world, but about 1 million children work in mines in appalling conditions that can lead to injury or death. Children also work on building sites and in brick-making factories without proper health and safety rules. Children are at risk from machinery, chemicals, harsh working conditions and lots of other hazards. Those who are forced to become soldiers or slaves are treated very badly and suffer terrible physical and mental harm and abuse, as well as sexual exploitation. Child domestic workers are also at risk of sexual abuse and violence. So again, it's my first draft. There's things I might choose to improve later, but you can see hopefully that it's very different to the first section. I'm now giving much more information rather than just trying to establish my own identity as a speaker. Second, it's a little bit longer, it goes on to 2 slides, apologies. One particularly horrifying form of child labour is bonded labour, which is the most common form of modern slavery. Debt bondage occurs when a person is forced to work to pay off a debt. They are tricked into working for little or no pay with no control over their debt. Most or all of the money they earn goes to pay off their loan. The value of their work invariably becomes greater than the original sum of money borrowed. Sometimes the debt can be passed down the generations and children can be held in debt bondage because of a loan their parents had taken out decades ago. Okay, so that's now the complete version of my logos section. Everything on this slide and then obviously this additional information. Again, I'd like you to answer some questions please, and the best way to do that is to open the PDF and show my homework. Go to page 152, 151, 52 and you'll find all this. How is the second section of my speech different to the first? Where have I used facts? Why have I quoted the UNICEF definition? Where have I used emotive language to present the facts in a powerful way? Please pause the video, answer the questions and then restart the video. Okay, so as I mentioned, I started off by creating a cohesive link, and what I've really tried to do here is go from small to large. So obviously Alejandra is one child, and I started off with her because I think talking about one child is far more powerful than talking about all of the children, because it's easy to think about one little girl suffering. It's hard to kind of understand this concept of millions. So I started with the individual, but then in this logos section I've expanded it. I've quoted UNICEF. Now the reason I chose UNICEF is because they're such a hugely recognisable charitable organisation. People will know them. They already have credibility as being a charity and an organisation that does a lot of good in the world. So I'm gaining credibility for myself by referencing them, kind of trying to take on the shine of their credibility, if you like. And then I've defined what child labour is, because sometimes it's easy to get talking about a topic without our audience actually understanding what we're talking about. So I've started with a definition. So clear logos here, information which is accurate, clear and informative. And then I've carried on with that. And I've obviously included a fact. 168 million children are engaged in child labour. So again, I've taken the definition and then I've built on it with some facts. 85 million, so another fact to build it up. Now in this section I've given some specifics. So rather than just this generalised idea that there's all these children working, I've tried to give a much clearer picture of what they actually do. So I've given some different careers. Mining is one job children work in, building sites and brickmaking factories, and soldiers. So I've just chosen some specific jobs that children work in around the world, and I've given a little bit of information about each job. I think it helps to paint a picture for the reader. Child labour is a big idea, but actually when you start talking about the nitty-gritty of it, it becomes much more realistic. And notice how, alongside the logos, I've tried to create pathos. I haven't just said that mining is a job, I've said it's one of the most dangerous jobs. That emotive language of danger. Children shouldn't be in danger, children should be protected. So this idea of them being in danger is immediately appealing to pathos. Appalling conditions. Again, a detail I've included to create that emotional appeal as well as that factual detail. Risk is another word, hazards, terrible, physical and mental harm and abuse, as well as sexual exploitation. All of this is true. None of this I'm making up, but I'm trying to obviously include some emotive language alongside the factual content to tap into logos and pathos simultaneously. I've then chosen to talk a little bit about bonded labour, and again I've done exactly the same thing. It's logos because I'm very informative about what it is, but I'm also including some pathos, some appeal to the emotions of the audience, so that I don't want it to be too clinical. I want them to be emotionally engaged in what I've got to say. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is to hand over to you. I'd like you to use my second section in order to create your second section. So whatever your task is that you created for yourself, I'd like you to create a logos section to explain to me, if you're doing, for example, racism, what is racism? Give me a definition. Give me some facts about racism. I want to be with this section, I want to be more informed than I am at the moment. I want to know more. And I want it to be credible and true. So this really, your section, is when you need to get your research notes out. You need to look at all the things you found out and think about which bits are most useful to create a logos section. And your logos section should be roughly the same length as mine, okay? So it needs to have detail, it needs to be built up. It's not enough just to tell me, oh yeah, this happens and there's 168 million. I need you to build up detail to show me that you're informed and so that I can learn something from you. So please, this video is going to come to an end now, and I'd like you to write the second section of your speech, carrying on from the first section of your speech, but obviously shifting it so it's not about selling yourself, it's about teaching me about your topic. Thank you very much.